Tonight's show is brought to you by Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC in Opelika. Get ready to smile.
Hello, baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. Really do appreciate it. And once again, we're here once again. It probably looks a little bit different, as you can tell. We have officially moved to the new set. We are here. We are live in color at the new place. And at least for me, I can't be happier. We will no longer be taking any breaks. We will no longer be having long stretches where things happen and I don't get to speak to you because we are here. The equipment is set up and we got a lot to talk about. So here's the first thing. With the new set, I do want to say over the years, I've had a lot of people come in and ask about, hey, can we see your entire collection? Can you show us everything? And in the old place, it would have been really hard for me to do that because the entire apartment was my collection. Now, with the current setup, it's all in one. It's all in one space, and we can do that. And I do plan to do that. It will be a pre-recorded thing. It won't be live. That will be coming at some point during the offseason. We got plenty of time to do it, but that is coming. So for those of you that have asked about it before, we will go through just about everything in here and let you know what I have and what I don't have. Maybe what somebody could find me. But we'll see. We will see. We got a lot to talk about, and some things we already have kind of spoken about. Last week, we talked about Travis d'Arnaud, of course. Not his option not getting picked up by the Atlanta Braves was a big shock to everyone. And really, as much as it was a surprise, it's honestly, when you think about it, it's not that surprising. The Braves made a big investment a few years ago in Sean Murphy. That investment, in large part, has not gone as expected. A lot of people, a lot of fans haven't loved that investment so far in Sean Murphy's tenure, and not so much because of the caliber of player Sean Murphy is, but more so because of injuries. He hasn't gotten to show what he was in Oakland and what he can be in Atlanta, and it really just hasn't gone well. And Travis d'Arnaud, in a way, has benefited from that because even though he was labeled the backup catcher, his role was that of a really everyday catcher, at least 50-50 catcher, because of the injuries and because of just everyday issues and that kind of thing with Sean Murphy. And not to mention, his bat was honestly too hot to take out of the lineup a lot of times. So now Travis d'Arnaud has officially made it clear he will not be back in Atlanta for 2025. He signed a 2-year, $12 million deal with the Los Angeles Angels. And this is pretty interesting because you got to believe that Ron Washington probably had something to do with this. Wash has said multiple times that he'd like to bring in some veteran leadership, and I can't find anybody better than Travis d'Arnaud. He's got postseason experience and a lot of it. We all know he caught every inning for the Braves back in 2021 in the playoffs. He also is really just a good veteran to have in the clubhouse. He works well with pitching staffs. He gets a lot of credit from Max Fried, rightfully so, and he's just a gamer. He's been really good for the Braves. We all remember some of the moments. I remember the three home run game earlier this year. He's had a lot of moments like that where he's come through and been a real factor for the Braves, whether it be the playoffs or just in the regular season. I will tell you that as a media, media personnel, I don't know what you'd call it, as a media member, that's what I was looking for. He's been great to interview. He's been a really easy interview. He's always good for a soundbite, and he cared about the team more so than himself in large part. So if you ask me, I think this is the best of the scenario we've been given. He didn't go to the Mets. He didn't go to the Phillies. He didn't go to the Dodgers. He went to an American League team that over the past few years has not been very good. And I think he could very well help Wash turn things around over there in Los Angeles. I think this is a really good thing for d'Arnaud. He got a little bit more money than what the Braves would have given him. And he's going to more than likely play as much as he can as a catcher, but play essentially every day. He's going to get a lot more playing time than I think he would according to the Braves' current plan. And really, that kind of is the reason that d'Arnaud is not back. Alex Anthopoulos actually spoke on this earlier this week. He said on d'Arnaud, quote, "We got a little bit of clarity on Acuna and when he would be back, and when we were able to rule out opening day. Strider the same way. We were able to rule out opening day. Joe Jimenez obviously had surgery. He'll be out at least till the All-Star break, could be the season." And you may be wondering at home, okay, well, what does that have to do with Travis d'Arnaud? What does an outfielder, a starting pitcher, and a relief pitcher have to do with a catcher? And you would be right to be asking that question. It's really all about reallocating funds. We all said a minute ago, or I said a minute ago, that d'Arnaud's going to get a lot more playing time in Anaheim. And if that's the case, you start to question, well, what good are we doing paying him $8 million in Atlanta if the plan currently is to have him just as a backup catcher? Because Sean Murphy is expected to catch 70% of the games this year, pending health and that kind of thing. Travis d'Arnaud has really been a luxury for the Braves over the past number of years because they haven't had to worry about, well, if we take our all-star caliber catcher out, what kind of decline are we going to see in the pitching staff? What kind of decline are we going to see behind the plate? What kind of decline are we going to have at the plate? You haven't really worried about that. And, you know, I think the plan right now is to use the investment of Sean Murphy. Now, a lot of people aren't going to like that because a lot of people have seen what Sean Murphy has and hasn't been over the past couple of years. And this past year especially, I don't know how fair that is. We've all circled him as a potential problem in the lineup this past year, but I think at some point everybody was, outside of Marcell Ozuna. So to pin that solely on Sean Murphy is irresponsible. And to be honest with you, if anybody has a good reason for that or good excuse, it would be Sean Murphy, because Sean Murphy was hurt for a large majority of the year, as were a lot of people on the Braves this season. But Sean Murphy specifically, I mean, opening day, he's out, right? So he never really got into a groove. And again, not making excuses, but you can't foresee that happening again in 2024 or in 2025. If it does, it's unfortunate, but that just goes to show you how unpredictable Major League Baseball is. But again, it's all about reallocating funds. You're paying d'Arnaud $8 million if you pick up the option. And again, Atlanta seems to believe in that investment with Murphy. So if that's the case, if the team believes in the investment of Sean Murphy, they can afford to pay a catcher $1 million or maybe even minimum salary if they bring up, you know, a guy in the minors by the name of Drake Baldwin, which is very possible. If that's the case, you can save a lot of cash that you'd already be paying anyway, and you just freed up $8 million to attack a few things: the starting rotation, the bullpen, potentially outfield with the uncertainty of Acuna right now. Those are your three weaknesses, and that's kind of what Alex Anthopoulos was saying when he spoke about Acuna not going to be back for opening day. We haven't really gotten a date when he will be back. We don't know. Strider is the same way, and Joe Jimenez now is the same way. We still don't know about Minter. He didn't mention that, but the bullpen has a lot of question marks as well. And if I had to guess, I would guess that if it's going to come down between the starting rotation or the bullpen, I would assume bullpen, because starter money has kind of already freed up, right? If your budget for starting pitching is X amount of dollars, well, $20 million of that X went to Morton last year. $15 million of that X went to Fried. So essentially, if you don't bring back Morton or Fried, you have $25 million to explore the free agency market or to explore the trade market in some capacity. So you do have a lot of cash there that otherwise would not really be spent, right? Like, you, at the end of the day, you have $25 million. If you bring back Morton, I assume you're not going to pay him the full $20 million you did last year. And if you bring back Fried, I assume you're going to pay him more. I think what would be interesting is, as Charlie Morton has announced that he will pitch in 2025, I think it would be interesting if the Braves offered him half of that and made Max Fried's salary $25 million, and gave him a long-term contract under that average annual value, $250 million contract. I think it would be interesting. Do I think they'll do it? I don't know. If this was a one-year deal, I think they would do it. Is that enough for Fried? I don't know either. But if you're going to reallocate funds, why not reallocate Morton's contract? He's only coming back for 1 year. He's not to say he's not worth $20 million, but he is knocking on 40. I think you could convince him, look, it's your last year. We want to give you a shot at a World Series. To do that, we need Max Fried or someone of the same caliber, and it's going to take some funds. We've heard, stories like this before where players took a pay cut to either win a World Series or play their final year where they want to play it. And if I'm Charlie Morton, where else would I want to play it other than Atlanta? I don't have to move. I don't have to uproot my family. And I get to play on a team that, if healthy and if funded the correct way, could potentially win the World Series. He's in a great spot. A lot of people his age and at this point in his career would kill to be where he was last season. Obviously, it didn't end the way he probably wanted it to. He didn't pitch particularly well at the latter half of the season, maybe the late part of the season, especially. The playoffs didn't go the Braves' way. And really, it felt like a lost season. I'm sure it felt like a lost season for him. That's probably why he's coming back. I think if the Braves had made a deep run in the playoffs, he may not come back. And you may be sitting at home and you may be thinking to yourself, well, Tyler, he may just want another payday, another $20 million payday. He may go somewhere else. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. I can't speak to that. But if I'm looking at this from the outside and I see, okay, Morton made $20 million, Fried made $15 million. Okay, let's pay Morton $10 million for his final season, which is not a bad payday, and pay Fried the difference and maybe just assume Fried's going to get that $10 million every year for the next 10. That's if you want to bring Fried back. And if you want to bring Morton back, you don't have to do that. You could still go the $25 million budget route in the trade market, in the free agency market. There's a lot of things you could do there. I'm sure a lot of you have a lot of ideas, and we'll get to those. But there's a lot of different ways this could go. I will say I'm not surprised that Morton wants to come back. I spoke on that last week. I was asked about it, I think, at some point. And I kind of got a rumbling towards the end of the season that he wasn't sure. And typically, by the end of a season, you kind of know. Like we kind of knew with BMAC what it was. Pretty much as soon as the game ended, it was announced. And Morton wasn't really ready to make an announcement. I just didn't have that feel that it was going to be a retirement speech at the end of that game. I just didn't feel it. And, as it stands right now, I'm not surprised that he's coming back. I do think this will probably be his final season. And if I'm negotiating for Charlie Morton's behalf, I'm negotiating to get a best chance scenario at a World Series. Is that with the Braves? Is that with someone else? I don't know. I think he's comfortable with the Braves. I think he fits well with the Braves. I think the pitching staff has worked well with him. I think it all lines up to bring Morton back at a lesser rate. Maybe if I'm Anthopoulos, I tell him, look, we've given you $20 million over the past couple of years. You're obviously aging. I mean, decline is a real thing. That said, Morton has found the fountain of youth to some degree. I think that there's a way that this can be done. And, I'll bring him up. Chipper Jones reallocated money to bring in certain players. Maybe there's a remodeling of Morton's contract to some degree. I mean, we've seen Ohtani, completely destroy that kind of thing, right? So I think there's a way this can happen. In terms of Fried's going to go where he wants to go at this point. We've talked about it. I still think it's unlikely he comes back. But either way, Anthopoulos has got to free up money to replace two starting pitchers. Whether he brings back Morton or not, you still got to replace that other one, especially with the knowledge of Spencer Strider will not be available on opening day. The Braves did not get off to a great start last year. They don't want to repeat that this year. I would imagine that Anthopoulos is going to do everything in his power to get off on a roll in 2025 and make it feel like the Atlanta Braves of old. Make it feel like the Braves that we're familiar with, because last year was completely foreign. So that's what I think on the current news. That's really all we got. It's kind of a wait and see what happens going forward, trade market wise, free agency wise. I'm all ears, but I've heard a lot of the predictions. I read a few in the comment section before we got started. I'm going to give my thoughts on those a little later. What I will say is that don't believe everything you hear. I say that every year. Don't believe everything you hear. I've already heard that the Braves are linked to Teoscar, who's going to make $60 million. Not going to happen. I've heard they're linked to Jack Flaherty, which could be possible. I mean, there's a lot of things that could be possible, but there's a lot of things that likely aren't going to happen that I've already heard so far, and we're only a couple of weeks in. So don't believe everything you hear. And I mean, if you got an idea, I'd love to hear it. But just remember, nobody saw Chris Sale coming last year. Not a soul. Not even me. When it happened, it was like, oh, okay, interesting. All of a sudden, he's probably going to win the Cy Young Award. So we don't know everything. There's a lot that could happen. When we get back, though, we're going to go through some of your ideas, so stay with us.
We're hammering down high prices at Glenn Smith GMC in Opelika. New full-size GMC Sierras discounted up to $12,500 off. GMC Terrains with a roomy cabin and pro safety discounted $6,500 off. Enjoy your holidays with no payments until February. Choose from over 500 new and used on the lot or on the way. GlennSmith.com. Get ready to smile. We're hammering down high prices at Glenn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika. New Chevy Silverado 4x4 crew cabs discounted up to $14,000 off. Brand new 2025 Chevy Equinox compact SUV with high-tech features discounted up to $4,000 off. Enjoy your holidays with no payments until February. Choose from over 500 new and used on the lot or on the way. GlennSmith.com. Get ready to smile.
Welcome back, everybody. Again, thank you for being here tonight. Really do appreciate it. And while you're here, you may be wondering, hey, that viewer count's kind of down. Can we get that up? Well, the way to do that is real simple. If you could just like the video for us, share it if you would. But most important thing is like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. That way you know when we go live. That way you're not one of the other 50 people that are missing the live stream. So you guys get first dibs. And the way our channel typically works is I'll do these live streams and I'll cut up some video later and put it out. So if you missed the live stream, usually there's a video giving you the best of the content that we've gotten. And there's going to be more content as we move forward. There's a lot of things to talk about throughout the off season. I know a lot of people tend to forget about baseball after October. Completely understood. But there's a lot to still talk about. We have winter meetings coming up. That's always a big week. And typically during the off season, I talk about the Braves, of course, but I also tend to also discuss things in a wider spectrum of baseball. I mean, winter meetings is always going to lead to some crazy deal that I'm going to disagree with. I think that they're making way too much money. Shohei Ohtani was a great example. But even those of the, I disagreed with the Tatis deal a few years ago, but that's just me. I don't think any player's worth that kind of money, but, or at least that kind of commitment. But I will say, we'll see what happens at winter meetings this year. I'm excited to see what the Braves do. I said last week, I think the Braves are going to be the most active team. Now, does that mean that they're going to go out and get some of the biggest deals and have the biggest blockbuster? No, they're not formatted in that way. They're not the Dodgers. They're not the Yankees. They're not going to spend that kind of cash. But I do think that they're going to be the most active because they have a lot of things that are changing. And if you needed any more of an indication of that, Travis d'Arnaud, they're not picking up his option. That's the biggest sign you can get. A staple on the team, a guy who has been in and out every day for the Braves, been their guy. They can count on him. They're not picking up his option because they know something's got to change, and they know that they got to reallocate some funds. The team dynamic, the team composition has changed, and d'Arnaud, unfortunately, is a unresponsible victim of it. He's just caught by it, and it is what it is. The dynamic has changed. Things are going to change. This is the first of many. So that said, we have a lot we could talk about in the trade market, in the free agent market, and I'm going to pretty much open up the floor to you guys. I want to hear from you. Who do you want? Who do you want the Braves to go get? Who do you think they will go get? And, I want you to be, somewhat, how do I put this? I don't want you to just go out crazy and give me a crazy one, but like they're not going to go get Shohei Ohtani, for example. But if you have a legit case, I'd love to hear it. Abel Wall was the first comment tonight, and while we were waiting, I went and got some notes for you, Abel, since you were the first one here tonight. You asked about, can you tell me who all the Braves should sign? And he listed a few. He listed Teoscar Hernandez, Willie Adames, and Tanner Scott. I'm going to talk about all three of these pretty much in depth for you because I had some time prior to going live. That's why I was a little bit late, plus technical, whatever. It's a new set. Sorry. But I had some time, and I'm going to talk about each of these in depth for Mr. Abel, so you're welcome already. Let's go ahead and get into it. Should the Braves sign Teoscar Hernandez? Fresh off of winning a World Series with the Dodgers, he bet on himself last year, took a bit of a pay cut to go to the Dodgers. And look, he was a great piece for them, was active in the playoffs, had a very good World Series. And look, he bet on himself. Now he's going to cash out, right? In theory. Some estimates are already up to $60 million for just this next season alone. Who knows what's going to be behind that? If it's a 5-year $60 million, it's 5 years. I think it'll be longer. But look, Teoscar Hernandez has been a good player for a long time, and he proved himself. Like I said a minute ago, he has proven himself to be all that in a bag of chips. He has been that good, and when you win a World Series, you can always seem to demand more money, rightfully so. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But sometimes that's a snake in the grass. I don't mean that in any bad way, but sometimes that makes teams overcommit, and sometimes, winning World Series isn't all that come the following year. Eddie Rosario is a really good example. He didn't demand more money. In fact, he probably took a really reasonable rate to return to the Braves back in 2021, but he never was that form of Eddie Rosario again. I think we can all agree on that. He had eyesight issues. Things didn't work out. Imagine if the Braves had paid him $30 million a year for 5 years, right? We'd all be kicking ourselves. That said, Teoscar Hernandez has always had a higher ceiling than Eddie Rosario, but it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to hit what he did this year. In 2024, he had 33 homers. He had a .272 average, just under 100 RBIs with 99. His on base was really good with 339, a .501 slug, a .840 OPS. Look, he's a two-time All-Star. He won the Home Run Derby. Two-time Silver Slugger. He's been really, really good. I'm looking. He's 32 as of right now. He's had a long time in the league. He's proven himself over the years. He is a valuable commodity, no doubt about it. But, will the Braves compete with a $60 million check from either the Dodgers or either the Yankees? Any of those big-time buyers, are they going to compete with that? No. And yes, the Braves are in need of outfield, I believe. I think they could upgrade outfield. And the reason I say that, you are already uncertain about your outfield with Acuna coming out of injury. You don't know how well he's going to play the field. You don't even know when he's going to be back. That could lead to a conversation where, outfielders are of interest for the Braves. I don't necessarily know that they're going to go all out and buy on Teoscar Hernandez. In fact, I don't think they will. I think that is going to be either a re-sign to the Dodgers for a hefty price or another big market team who's willing to pay him cash. He took a 1-year deal to the Dodgers to prove himself, and I think he's going to get double the price he was in 2024, and he's going to want $60 million a year for however many years. And will he get it? I don't know, but I don't think the Braves are going to have the highest bid. I got a feeling he probably likes the West Coast. On top of that, I just don't see that fitting. He's a great player, a terrific player. He can play, I think, every position in the outfield. You got to take what you can get. But look, he's already received a qualifying offer from the Dodgers. They're going to want him back. I mean, he won a World Series with them. He was terrific. They're going to want to try to get him. Will they? Who knows? But I would assume he's going back to the Dodgers. I don't think the Braves are going to spend $60 million a year on anybody. I mean, think about it. Austin Riley is the highest paid person on the team, I believe, as of right now. Him and Olsen, and they're making $20 million a year. They're not going to triple that for one guy, no matter how good they are. And all due respect to Teoscar Hernandez, I don't think outfield is that much in demand for the Braves compared to some of their other holes. Yes, they have a hole in the outfield, but just because you have a hole in the outfield doesn't necessarily mean you need a $60 million replacement. You could fill it with a lot of different guys. I like Tyler O'Neill. Jerickson Profar is available. Mark Canha is available. Michael Conforto is available. Tommy Pham is available. Jesse Winker. Adam Duvall, if we wanted to turn that page again. I don't think they will. I think they're going to move on. There's a lot of guys available that don't even necessarily play left field. Harrison Bader is available. He plays center. Kevin Pillar is available. If you wanted to go a lesser cost, he is available. Jock Peterson will be available this go round. That is interesting. There's a lot of guys that are available. One of my favorites being Jason Hayward. He plays right field, but you could shift everybody around and make it okay. But in terms of the outfield, Teoscar Hernandez is probably the biggest prize on the free agent market. The Braves don't have to attack the free agent market. They could attack a trade market in some degree. But they likely are going to find their left fielder in the free agency market. I just don't believe they're going to go after the top prize because you have two starting pitchers you have to replace, and you have your bullpen to worry about. Why would you tangle yourself up in a $60 million contract, even if it was just 1 year? I don't think they do it. I think that's going to be for a much higher range on the other side of the league. I don't even think... I'd be surprised if the Dodgers forked out $60 million for Teoscar Hernandez. He's good. He's great. I don't know if he's $60 million. That's where estimates are right now, but estimates always seem to run high, and the league is kind of adjusting back to normalcy. I'd be shocked to see it, but also not at the same time. I don't think he gets it, but I don't think he will be going to the Braves, and purely because the Braves typically don't really battle in a bidding war. They do a lot of under-the-radar moves and get guys in that are great players, or at least were great players, and they seem to turn them around. Chris Sale, perfect example. And there's a multitude of those guys out there. But I don't see them going after Teoscar. That's my take. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And for right now, when we return, we're going to talk about Willie Adames. We've talked about him a lot already this offseason, and really during the season, we talked about him a lot. We're going to talk Willie Adames when we return. Will the Braves sign Willie Adames? You'll find out after the break.
We're hammering down high prices at Glenn Smith GMC in Opelika. New full-size GMC Sierras discounted up to $12,500 off. GMC Terrains with a roomy cabin and pro safety discounted $6,500 off. Enjoy your holidays with no payments until February. Choose from over 500 new and used on the lot or on the way. GlennSmith.com. Get ready to smile. We're hammering down high prices at Glenn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika. New Chevy Silverado 4x4 crew cabs discounted up to $14,000 off. Brand new 2025 Chevy Equinox compact SUV with high-tech features discounted up to $4,000 off. Enjoy your holidays with no payments until February. Choose from over 500 new and used on the lot or on the way. GlennSmith.com. Get ready to smile.
Welcome back, everybody. We just got done talking about Teoscar Hernandez. Where will he land come this next season? It's not going to be in Atlanta, in my opinion. But what about this guy, Willie Adames? This has been a conversation really throughout the year, this past year, mainly because everybody that I know anyway, everybody I've talked to wants a replacement at shortstop for the Atlanta Braves. And all due respect to Orlando Arcia, he's had a solid tenure with the Braves, but last year, no doubt about it, was rough. And I think everybody respects him for what he did in 2023, where he won an All-Star and all of that. He really came out and proved that, look, yeah, you lost Dansby Swanson, but I can be just as good on my best day. The problem was, for this past season, he was not that. He did not play to that level. Should we expect better in 2025? I would hope so. Should the Braves try to adjust and find a better shortstop during this offseason? I think that's fair. Now, you may be sitting there thinking, well, Tyler, are the Braves actually going to do it? I don't think so. So take that for what you will. You're looking out there going, well, Tyler, you just said we should address this. I didn't say that. I said we should try to address this. There's a big difference. Yes, everybody realizes that in the lineup, one of the weakest points is the shortstop position. All due respect to Arcia, when you have Acuna, when you have Riley, when you have Olsen, when you have Michael Harris even in the lineup, and this past year, d'Arnaud, Murphy, you're going to be a little overshadowed. I didn't even mention Ozuna in that category. You're going to be overshadowed. He is an average bat. He's a decent bat, but he's an average bat. That's okay. It's a little bit of a throwback to when shortstops weren't the MVPs or weren't the heavy hitters. I'm not saying he's Ozzie Smith. I'm just saying he's an average, solid defense, decent bat shortstop. It's not the worst thing in the world. Could you improve it? Sure, but you're going to have to pay for it, and that's where Willie Adames comes in. Willie Adames, terrific shortstop, no doubt about that. You guys have brought him up throughout this entire season, and I've always kind of been skeptical of it. And straight up with you, I've always been skeptical of it. He just got done with the Brewers on a 1-year, $12.25 million deal. 32 homers, 250 batting average. Solid, no doubt about that. Decent defense, but I just don't see the Braves paying him what he's going to demand this year. The shortstop market is kind of down, and Willie Adames is, if not the top prize, one of the top prize, at least in the free agency. I know Carlos Correa is getting shopped around in the trade market. That's not what I'm talking about. Number one, the Braves don't want his contract either. Willie Adames, on the other hand, is probably going to demand something around $30 million. To be frank with you, I have a lot of Brewer fans that are friends with me personally that live in Milwaukee, and they flat out told me if I was any other team, I wouldn't pay Adames. He's a good player, but he's not your next big thing. He's not that. He's a good player, but he's not going to be your next big thing. And he's the biggest shortstop prize there is this year. That doesn't mean he's going to be the biggest prize for the next decade. And you got to be careful because you don't want to pay a generational price for an average shortstop. And look, he's got double the amount of homers that Arcia has. He has a 30-point difference in the batting average. But what Orlando did not give you at the plate this season, he gave you on the field. There's no doubt about that. And that's tough to replace. It's not, a lot of people tend to just forgive defense or forget about defense. It's a forgotten part of the game at this point. And it's unfortunate because when good defense comes around, it's not acknowledged like it should be. I obviously brought up Ozzie Smith, but we all remember Andrelton Simmons and what he gave on the field. That guy's a Hall of Fame defender, and you could make a case for that. Will he go in? I don't know. I don't think so, because offense is such an integral part of the game now. But Andrelton was a legit, probably one of the greatest defensive shortstops of all time. Arcia is not that, but he is dang sure a day in, day out, great defender. And at shortstop, that's important just as much as offense is. I would argue more important than offense. And really, if we're honest, if Arcia did exactly what he did, I'm looking at his stats right now. If he did exactly what he did this year, and everybody on the team was healthy, we would not be having this conversation, right? If Acuna was healthy, if Ozzie didn't have a long stretch out, if Riley wasn't hurt at one point, if Olsen had more consistent year if Murphy wasn't hurt and the offense didn't struggle like it did, because no doubt about it, it did. Number one, Arcia probably would have hit a lot better. The reason he was good in 2023, a lot of people tend to forget it, is because he had an MVP batting behind him. He saw a lot of fastballs. He saw a lot of pitches over the plate. In 2024, that didn't happen because in the first couple of months of the season, Acuna gets hurt, and the offense never really got flowing. He went from having a 264 average in 2023, an all-star season, to a 218 average. Yes, steep decline, no doubt about it. But it's about what he did in the years prior to him coming to Atlanta. In 2016, his rookie year, 220. Following that, 277, 236, 223, 260, 198, and 21. That's back when he was off the bench. So, yes, not a great year. But again, who had a good year last year on the Braves outside of Marcell Ozuna? Very few people. So I don't tend to blame him on that. Willie Adames is expected to get somewhere around a $150 million contract. I would assume that's $30 million across 5 years. I don't see the Braves keeping up with that. The Dodgers are heavily implicated. I don't think the Braves are going to spend anywhere near the Dodgers. I just don't think they're going to even flirt with that. And I don't know that Willie Adames, if you were going to do it, I don't think that Willie Adames would be the talent to do it with, right? Shohei Ohtani, as much as I disagree with how the contract was handled, the $700 million over the next 50 years or whatever he's getting, I think that's a bit ridiculous. But if there's a player to do that for, it's Shohei Ohtani, no doubt about it. That said, Willie Adames, $30 million across 5 years, it's not terrible based on the way Major League Baseball has adopted this super high payout regimen that we've been on. But I don't see them doing this for the likes of Willie Adames. All due respect, I think they're going to ride with Orlando Arcia, to all of your dismay. I can hear the grunts and I can hear it, I know. But look, he's going to give you good defense. And I think the hope is going to be that you get into next year, everybody is back to being healthy. Acuna's back in the lineup a month into the season. You can put Arcia in the 9 hole, and whatever he does is gravy. It's not, you're so dependent on it that it becomes a problem. And look, the expectation, all due respect to Orlando Arcia, the expectation when we signed Arcia to his current deal, which, by the way, this is why we're not signing Adames. He's a free agent in 2026. He's making $7.3 million over 3 years through next year. Okay, he's making somewhere in the $2 to $3 million range. Not very much. You're talking about paying Adames over triple that. Or no. I'm sorry. Multiply that times 10. That's what you're talking about paying Adames. Why would they do that? They have a perfectly good defensive shortstop and a decent bat. Yes, it's not the best bat in the world. It's not a team of Avengers, everybody. He's going to struggle. Everybody's going to struggle. He's a good defender, and look, I'm not going to defend what he did this year, but I do think that if you improve the lineup in general, Arcia's numbers will generally get better, right? 2023, everybody was hitting well, so Arcia hit well because, again, he saw a lot of fastballs because everybody knew he's the weakest hitter. That when everybody hits well, your lower bats typically do well too. And that's why they put him in that spot. That's why they put him in the 9 hole. I expect a similar situation come 2025. I expect Arcia to be back. I think Willie Adames will sign to the highest bidder. I don't think it'll be the Braves unless he just wants to come to the Braves and he's willing to take $10 million a year or $12 million a year, what he was making on the Brewers. If that's the case, sure, sign Adames. But if you sign Adames, you're going to be paying him a lot more per year for 15 more homers and 30 points on the batting average. I just don't know that the cost-reward ratio justifies it. And that's my take on it. So I like Adames. I think he's a good player. I just don't know that with the current situation on the Atlanta Braves, where they're paying their really good defensive shortstop $2.25 million a year, why in the world would they pay a guy who's just as good in the field and 15 homers and 30 points on the average better at the plate? I don't get it. I don't see why they'll do it, and that's a business decision. A lot of people are going to tell me, Tyler, how could you not want Adames? That is a in-game decision. That's an in-game conversation we're having. I'm looking at it more in the terms of a Moneyball situation where I get just as much out of this guy that I'm paying a tenth of than I am Willie Adames. All due respect to Adames, again, great player, but they're going to ride it out with Arcia. So I personally, I know there's going to be a lot of talk about Willie Adames, but when it doesn't happen, just remember, I told you here first. When we get back, we got one more guy to talk about. This is all for you, Abel. Thanks for the first comment. We really appreciate it. Remember, you can help us out by liking the video, subscribing to the channel if you have not already, and of course, hitting the bell for notifications. That way you know every time we go live, every time we drop new content, every time we pretty much do anything. When we get back, we're talking Tanner Scott. The Braves need bullpen help. Are they going to get it from Tanner Scott? We'll talk about that on the other side of the break.
We're hammering down high prices at Glenn Smith GMC in Opelika. New full-size GMC Sierras discounted up to $12,500 off. GMC Terrains with a roomy cabin and pro safety discounted $6,500 off. Enjoy your holidays with no payments until February. Choose from over 500 new and used on the lot or on the way. GlennSmith.com. Get ready to smile. We're hammering down high prices at Glenn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika. New Chevy Silverado 4x4 crew cabs discounted up to $14,000 off. Brand new 2025 Chevy Equinox compact SUV with high-tech features discounted up to $4,000 off. Enjoy your holidays with no payments until February. Choose from over 500 new and used on the lot or on the way. GlennSmith.com. Get ready to smile.
Hey everybody, welcome back. I really appreciate you guys hanging around during the breaks. Thank you for being here tonight. You didn't have to be. It's a random, I guess, what is it, Wednesday night? And you could be anywhere and you decided to watch the live stream. We really do appreciate that. Again, please do like the video if you have not already. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications so that you can be up to date with everything we got going on here on deck. And of course, with your Atlanta Braves and really all of Major League Baseball. I've been digging in the numbers on this Tanner Scott situation. Look, Tanner Scott, solid bullpen arm. I'm actually going to pull up his stats so I can give you just a better read on him. This is a guy who's been on the radar for a while. We saw him a good bit this year. Really just a great arm. And look, 175 ERA on the year. Really just solid work. He spent time in both Miami and San Diego. We saw him a lot in Miami. In Miami, he had a, let me see. He had a 118 ERA. In San Diego, he had a 273. Less time in San Diego, so smaller sample size there. But really, he's been a solid reliever. And I think really when you look at the situation the Braves are in, this is probably the most likely of the three. So, Abel, if you're out there and you're still watching, out of Willie Adames, out of Teoscar Hernandez, and out of Tanner Scott, I think Tanner Scott's most likely because, frankly, there's less money involved. He's, again, a solid bullpen arm. We went through the numbers, 175 ERA, 84 strikeouts last year. Could be a really good eighth-inning guy, obviously behind Rysel as closer. I think that fits really well, especially when you consider the fact that Joe Jimenez is out of the conversation here, and especially when you consider that there's concerns about A.J. Minter. I think this is a really good idea. We could use some lefty help, and Tanner Scott does give you that. I think this could actually really happen. Some predictions are saying that he's going to make anywhere from around $48 million over 3 years, which, by the way, that's $16 million a year. Now, when I first read that, it's like, all right, well, could I see Alex Anthopoulos tying up $16 million on one reliever? And I said, okay, well, what's our highest reliever, contract at the moment? And it's Rysel. He's making $14.5 million a year. Now, based on that projection, you'd be paying Tanner Scott more than Rysel. But here's why I think that's possible. Number one, it's a projection. It doesn't mean anything. It's just, do the Braves, could that be a possibility? I think it could be, because there is a desperate need right now in the bullpen. You're missing Joe Jimenez. You're uncertain about Minter. You needed lefty help anyway in the pen last year, whether we like to admit it or not. You may have to replace Jesse Chavez. You did sign Bummer, but you're still uncertain about the rest of the bullpen. There's a lot of concern there, rightfully so. Tanner Scott, if you landed him, especially over the next 3 years, that shores up your bullpen to a major degree. And I think that's worth more in spending the money. The other thing is, when you think about the money, well, we just cut costs with d'Arnaud. Why did we do that? Well, for this type of situation. Now, I told you that with losing d'Arnaud, I thought we'd attack bullpen. I did tell you that. And I think this would be a good move to do it with. Again, you'd pay him $16 million a year. Well, you just freed up half of that on d'Arnaud. You could free up more of that cutting costs as time goes on. We'll see. There's going to be some that are just naturally coming off the books. And if you can pay him, I think this is a viable deal. I've liked Tanner Scott a lot. The Marlins over the past few years have had a lot of bullpen arms that I've actually like, oh man, I wish we could get them out of Miami and get them in Atlanta. I think Tanner Scott, again, out of all the three Abel brought up, Tanner Scott is actually very doable. And I think it's actually really possible, because San Diego, they're probably going to, I'm sure they threw him a qualifying offer at least, but they got him as a rental. I don't think he necessarily established himself there in any real way, but he is a really good pitcher. He's a really good relief pitcher, and the Braves could use him. And a 175 ERA over 162. I mean, that is a number that really does help. Now, that said, is bullpen top priority? No. I still think top priority is figuring out your starting rotation, because as it stands on opening day, you have, let's just write them out. You have Reynaldo, he's signed. You have Spencer Schwellenbach, he's signed. And I think out of everybody, I mean, Strider's hurt, Fried's gone, and Morton's gone. Oh, you have Chris Sale. Duh. So you have three. You still got two that, eventually Strider will come back, but on opening day, he's on the outside looking in. That's not the end of the world. So really, you could just fill it with one, but I still think that one is a big question. Will it be Max Fried, or will you go outside the box and maybe go after a Jack Flaherty, maybe go after some type of trade that we saw with Chris Sale last year? A lot could happen with that. I still think starting pitching is starting priority, no pun intended. But Tanner Scott would help you fill your bullpen out very quickly. Great lefty reliever, could probably afford him, would be a great eighth inning guy. I don't know how he is in the clubhouse. I've never met the guy. But I do think he could be a really solid arm for the Braves to use. Not to mention, you take him away from the Padres, you take him away from the Mets, you don't have to face him anymore. I think that's pretty interesting. He is a free agent as we speak. He is available, and he made one over last year. He was on a 1-year deal, $5.7 million. So he was extremely affordable for the Padres. Obviously, they had to trade for him, but in terms of payout, they paid half that, if that. So there's a lot that could be said there. I think Tanner Scott's the most doable. Will he make $48 million? I think that could be debated. I think he'll be more affordable than that. So I'm not just shooting everything down here. I don't think Teoscar will happen. Willie Adames is more possible than Teoscar, but I still don't see it happening, not when they're paying Orlando so cheap, and he's still putting out decent results. I just don't see it happening. But Tanner Scott, with the need in the bullpen as it stands, and Joe Jimenez possibly being out for the entirety of the season next year, and A.J. Minter being uncertain as well, and again, you still needed lefty help last year anyway, that could be a saving grace. And for anybody out there that's going, Tyler, they're not going to pay him more than what they're paying Rysel. They also weren't as desperate when they made the trade for Rysel. They didn't make the deal with Rysel. Rysel has definitely earned it over the past couple of seasons, but they did not make that deal. That was a trade, I believe, for Tucker Davidson with the Angels for Rysel Iglesias. They've made the most of it, but it's not like they, again, made that deal. And I think they would gladly make this deal. 3 years is not a huge commitment. That's in the ballpark for what the Braves would do. $48 million sounds like a lot because it is. But across 3 years, you're talking $16 million. I think we can afford it. And you got money coming off the books. But we will see what happens. When we get back, that is the last of the Abel Wall questions. When we get back, we are going to go through the comments section and get through that as quick as we can. We've already been going for an hour, and I haven't even opened it up to comments. So we got to do that. When we get back, we open it up to you guys. So get your comments in. Remember, Super Chats do get priority. They help out the channel. They really do. And, of course, if you have not already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so that you can keep up with the Atlanta Braves right here on Deck.
We're hammering down high prices at Glenn Smith GMC in Opelika. New full-size GMC Sierras discounted up to $12,500 off. GMC Terrains with a roomy cabin and pro safety discounted $6,500 off. Enjoy your holidays with no payments until February. Choose from over 500 new and used on the lot or on the way. GlennSmith.com. Get ready to smile. We're hammering down high prices at Glenn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika. New Chevy Silverado 4x4 crew cabs discounted up to $14,000 off. Brand new 2025 Chevy Equinox compact SUV with high-tech features discounted up to $4,000 off. Enjoy your holidays with no payments until February. Choose from over 500 new and used on the lot or on the way. GlennSmith.com. Get ready to smile.
Welcome back, everybody. We're getting straight into the comments section. Abel Wall, thank you. You just gave me like 4 segments this week, so really appreciate that. Thank you all for being here tonight again. Really do appreciate it. Remember to like the video if you have not already. Subscribe if you have not already. Really helps the channel grow, and we want to keep growing, even if it is the off season. It's not the off season for us. We are back. We are in a new set. I wish I could show you the rest of the room because I think you guys, if you're collectors especially, would really enjoy it. Looking forward to producing some kind of a video to show it off. And I wish I could show you everything. This is just a fourth of what's actually in here. But at some point, we will show you everything. And I'm looking forward to that. Daniel Berry says hello. Vision says hello. Good to see you, Vision. Jeff Berry says, when does the show start? Well, I said 8:30. I think it started more like 8:36. I'm pretty sure. Sorry about that. Lady Brave says, my heart is broken into millions of pieces. Braves country is going to miss d'Arnaud so much. I completely agree with you. I already miss him. It's going to take some getting used to, not seeing him behind the plate at least every other day. It's just going to be very odd. But he's off to bigger and better money over there in L.A., and that's all you can really hope for him. And, wish him and his family the absolute best. Mass Boost says, Sean Murphy did do as expected only this past year. 2023, he was perfectly fine. Yeah, I agree with you. I see you said didn't. Duck Disciple says, chop, chop, chop. Mass Boost says, Angles. Okay. Angles. I read that wrong. Sorry. Angels need all the help they can get when it comes to their pitching department. I think d'Arnaud's actually going to probably help them a good bit. And, the Angels have been bad so long that I actually kind of hope they do okay. For Ron Washington's sake, I really hope that they figure it out and figure it out. But we'll see what happens. Chadwick Trump fans out there tonight. I'm sure that's not political at all, but thank you, Jeff Berry. Appreciate that. Let's see. Caesar Salgado. I don't think I've ever seen you in the chat, so thank you for joining. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Why keep Sean Murphy if he stinks? I would rather trade Sean and keep Travis. Well, right now, you've invested in Sean for multiple years. Travis also doesn't have the ceiling of Sean, I would say. The ability of Sean is well known. That's why we went and got him. He doesn't stink. He's been hurt. He hasn't quite found his footing in Atlanta, but I wouldn't say he stinks. The other thing is, if you were to trade Sean Murphy right now, you'd have to bank on the fact that, we're not going to get what he's worth because everybody's going to say, well, look at the past 2 years. What has he done? So, I mean, that argument's kind of dead on arrival for me, but we'll see. Caesar also says Atlanta already asked for Adames, Nathan Eovaldi. Sure, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Reason I say that, a lot of times when a team is hey, is Willie Adames available? Or hey, what's your asking price? They're just seeing where the market is. They're going to check in. Anthopoulos has talked about that a million times. Where it's like, look, we're going to check in on the big guys, but we're not going to set our focus there. If they come back to us, they come back to us, but we know they're going to go for $100 million or whatever the price is. We know where their head's at. We know what they want. If we're here and they're here and there's no chance of us meeting in the middle, we're moving on. Nothing happened with Eovaldi or Adames yet, and I'll tell you why. It's because it's early. Right? If it's past winter meetings and this happens, it's a little bit more interesting. I'm sure the Braves are far from the only teams to do it. Now, Nathan Eovaldi intrigues me. I think if you can get him for an affordable price, and if you can't get Fried as your fifth guy, then, okay. But let's say the Braves say, Fried, we're all right. We're going to go with Morton. And you got Reynaldo, Schwellenbach, Chris Sale, Strider when he's healthy, and Charlie Morton starting out the year next year. That's not so bad either. So there's a lot of ways it could go. I don't mind the idea of Eovaldi. I don't know that they're going to pay him what he's going to ask for, but they may. I could be wrong. It'd be a similar story if he was coming to the Braves and do really well. It'd be a similar story to that of Chris Sale, right? Like Nathan Eovaldi, he hasn't had quite the treacherous road that Chris Sale has had, but he is a veteran. He did used to be a little bit better than what he is, and he would kind of be coming back to a championship caliber team, so it would be interesting. I don't know if it'll happen, but, we'll see. I'm not opposed to Nathan Eovaldi at all, but I don't know that that's where our focus truly is. It's out there, people are saying it, but as I started the video by saying, don't believe everything you hear, right? That's the best way I can put it. Don't believe everything you hear, because a lot of people say stuff just to get people talking. Jeff Barry says, we are predicting Murphy to have a healthy year where he will be good. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can predict it. I'm sure they predicted it last year, but, in the first at bat of the year, he pulled his oblique or whatever. I mean, like, you can't predict that, right? Like, there's no reason to assume he's going to get hurt. Right that was completely unforeseen, as were many of the injuries this year. So for me, Murphy, I'm genuinely hoping that this year he's completely healthy. And look, if he's completely healthy all year and he doesn't have an offensive year at all, then we can start talking like this. But he has yet to have a full year where he's been completely healthy. And until that happens, all due respect to everybody out there, I don't think you can exactly have a fair assessment of where he is productivity-wise, right? That'd be like saying, well, Ronald Acuna didn't do anything last year. Well, he missed 5 out of the 6 months. Of course he didn't do a lot. So it's just, we're going to have to wait and see what happens. Let's see. A lot of people surprised that d'Arnaud let go. Joe Reese says, as far as the bullpen, Soroka had a 2.75 bullpen ERA this year. They could sign him to replace Joe. They could. We talked about that a little bit last week. I actually was unaware that he had pitched that much in the pen. He actually did pitch fairly well in the bullpen. Looks like he's evolved to a reliever. I'm okay with it if you can get him. You're not going to, look, I've said before, you're not going to find a bigger Mike Soroka fan than myself. I mean, maybe you will, but just for perspective, I'm going to pull this up if I can get it. I went, the moment he came back from the Achilles, this is video from that. It's a single A game in Rome. I bought front row tickets because I wanted to see Soroka pitch. I wanted to see him back to where he could be. And look, he looked great that night, but past single A, it never really added up as a starter. So I definitely think he's well liked in the Braves clubhouse. I don't think it was a lack of effort thing. I think it was just a situation where we've done all we can do. Maybe a change of scenery could help you. And maybe the change of scenery he needed was walking 100 yards to the bullpen. Maybe. I don't know. But whatever works. I think he's definitely turned a corner. I genuinely hope so. The longer he can stay in the big leagues, the better, in my opinion. And there's no one that's worked harder. So I'm all for it. But I don't think he's a staple bullpen guy that you're going to need to replace a Jimenez and a Minter, possibly. We don't know. And really, you needed lefty help anyway. That's kind of why we were talking about Tanner Scott. As much as I like Soroka, I don't know if he's your staple guy. He's a guy that could come in and be everything and more that Jesse Chavez has been, which we haven't gotten word on if he's retiring or not. He'll probably be traded 3 or 4 more times if he plays this year. But I don't know where he's going to go. I don't know if he's going to retire. I don't know if he's going to play. He pitched well enough to me, just like Morton, that if he wants to pitch again this year, it may not be for the Braves, but he certainly could. In a mop-up scenario like he's known to do. He's been very good in the low-leverage situations. Maybe you give Soroka those at least to start out and let him grow and develop there. I don't know. Soroka's also in a low-leverage, I hate to say it, a low-leverage team. I mean, the White Sox are the worst team in the modern era, literally. I mean, they were terrible last year. So, all due respect to him, I don't know how much pressure he really had. And you go from having absolutely no pressure as a team. Not to say you don't care if you win or lose, but day in, day out, you're going to lose more than you're going to win, to go into the Braves where you're going to be expected to win. The pressure is going to be different, and it's not to say he's not used to that. We've seen him do it before, but I don't know how that translates necessarily. I'm all for giving it a shot, though, for sure. Let's see. A lot of folks in the chat tonight. Really do appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Let's see. Mass Boost. He's throwing numbers at me. It's too late for me to be doing algebra, Mass Boost. He says Ramon Laureano is a 2.8 WAR player per 600 plate appearances over his career, and getting that at $6 million is far better than Teoscar at 3.5 WAR at $20 million this past year. I don't disagree with that. And that's the Moneyball situation I'm kind of talking about, right? Like Ramon Laureano versus Teoscar. Do you really want to pay a guy $60 million to give you 3.5 WAR when you could take Ramon Laureano, who's making, I don't know, probably less than $5 million, I'd assume. I don't know his contract off rip, but I'm sure it's far below. Same argument for Adames and Arcia. It's really not that big of a staggering difference when you look at the entire organization as a whole. And that's the way you have to look at it. You can't look at it and go, every time this guy comes up, he strikes out or he flies out or whatever. You have to look at it in a sense of what's going to benefit the team more, right? Spending money here or spending money there. That's how I try to look at it. You want to look at the team as a budget, because that's how the organization looks at it. You don't want to look at it as a coach, right? You don't, like, a lot of times I think when I talk to people, and I get it, because I'm guilty of this. You look at it like, man, I wish our outfield was better. Man, I wish, our hitting was better. Man, I wish we had some better players, or whatever it may be. And I think a lot of times, like, yeah, we can all wish that. But you also have to understand why certain players are where they are, why certain players get traded, why certain players who are really good don't get their options picked up. And a lot of times it's like today with d'Arnaud, it's reallocating funds. And for Arcia, the one thing that makes him really valuable, other than his defense, is his low cost. That makes him extremely valuable, because you can get he's not the best, but he's all right, and we're paying him $2.3 million, and we're getting, 75% of this player, right? Basically. And, it is what it is, but that's what makes some of these players valuable. Low cost makes them valuable, right? I would argue Acuna, when healthy, and even Ozzie Albies kind of, when healthy, are some of the most valuable players in the game, because you're getting MVP production from a guy who's making $10 million a year. That guy should be making $700 million in his contract, according to our, current rate of who gets paid and that kind of thing. Everybody thinks they're getting gypped. but that makes Acuna extremely valuable to the Braves. It makes Ozzie extremely valuable. Ozzie's only getting, I want to say, like $5 million a year, $7 million a year, something like that. Nothing. That makes him even more valuable. Riley and Olsen are getting, taking a bit of a cut. That makes them valuable because the Braves can explore other avenues and other players and other scenarios of what the team needs. They have freedom, like we're seeing right now, to dance around and figure out what they need to adjust, who they need to go get, who they need to get rid of. And they got their team who's going to be here day in, day out. Michael Harris is another example, long-term, low cost, and that really helps. Obviously, it helps cement the team long-term, but beyond that, it helps give the front office the ability to say, okay, well, this is how much money we got locked up. This is what we're going to need. And it also lets them plan, right? So Michael Harris, Acuna, Ozzie, Riley, Olsen, Sean Murphy, we know they're going to be here long term, right? So that money's booked up for the next 5 years. Okay, we need to get this much money together because we know this is coming off the books, this is coming off the books, this is coming off the books, and we're going to have to fix the team according to that. And that's what makes these guys so valuable. It's what makes the Braves unique. Not a lot of teams do this, and I would argue nobody does it to the Braves level. Not a single one. Some try, but they're not successful. You may wonder why that is. I don't really know. I think it's a mixture of the culture that's been placed here. I think it's part of a winning club. I think it's the fact that, frankly, the ballpark energy, everybody seems to want to play here. I'm looking at Jazz Chisholm, and because of that, you open yourself up to being more accessible to players and more accessible to conversations about, look, we can't pay you this much, but you can come here and win a World Series. You can come here and be a part of a winning team. Now, that culture, took a hit this year, no doubt about that. That idea took a hit this year in the sense of, well, you can't promise you're going to win a World Series. You made it to the playoffs. I would argue that the Braves showed how much depth they really have this year. A lot of people would disagree on me on that, but I would argue that was more impressive than a lot of the rest of the playoff crew, because a lot of them were at full strength and still got eliminated in the first round. It just is what it is. But I think RC is here to stay at least through next year. Or this coming up year. I don't see him going anywhere. And look, you may get to a point where, Arcia is so bad that you have to move on. I don't know. That can be handled at the deadline next year, if that's the case. But I would say that the Braves are probably going to try to stretch it until there is a market with shortstops that makes sense to pick up something more valuable, or they have a shortstop within their ranks in the minors to call up. A lot of different ways that can go, but that's my take on it. Mass Boost says, bring Paul DeYoung on the cheap for $2 million. Good defender, and DeYoung has reverse splits in his career, so you could platoon him at Arcia. Is Paul DeYoung a free agent, or would we have to trade for him? I need to look at that. Give me just a second. All right, Paul DeYoung. He is free agent 2025, so yes, he is a free agent. You're saying bring him in for $2 million. He had 24 homers last year. He's going to get more than $2 million, though. He made $2 million last year, but he's going to demand more than that. So I would say probably not. And I don't think platooning at shortstop is really the answer either, because the reason Arcia was better in 2022 and 2023 than he was in 2021 was because he wasn't coming off the bench. He played every day, right? We've seen a lot of players be that way. Whit Merrifield. I think Whit Merrifield might be back this year. He obviously liked playing in Atlanta, and I'm not even sure if he signed a multiple-year deal. I could be wrong on that. He might have. Whit was that could be your left fielder, to be honest with you. He's versatile. You can use him pretty much wherever. You could put him at shortstop if it doesn't work out. A lot of people are going to shake their head at that, but Whit, two-hit Whit's pretty darn good, and he's not going to have the homers, but we're talking about changing our approach. There you go. He's a free agent. So I was right on that. So I think they could bring him back for fairly affordable. Last year he made $8 million. He does have a 25 team option. I haven't seen if the Braves pick that up or not. I don't think they have yet. So, we'll see. But for everybody out there talking about Arcia and how bad he was, just remember it could have been Vaughn Grissom. All due respect to Vaughn Grissom, great bat, terrible defense. Terrible defense. And he didn't ever, he's hurt right now, so it's kind of knocking a man when he's down, but he never really turned it on in Atlanta. Far as I know, he hasn't done that in Boston either. Hash-slinging Slasher makes an appearance, brought to you by SpongeBob. Do you think we trade for Garrett Crochet? No. I don't think. People have brought that up over the past number of years. Garrett Crochet has kind of made it hard for the White Sox to shop him because he already came out and said something to the effect of, you're going to have to, I'm not pitching in the playoffs, unless I get a bigger deal or something like that. That's going to turn off a lot of teams, and I think the first one it's going to turn off is the Braves. But beyond that, with Garrett Crochet, I think the asking price in a trade would be astronomical. It'd be like if 10 years ago when the Braves were super bad, it'd be like asking to trade Freddie Freeman. What would we have asked for Freddie Freeman? Quite a bit, right? So it just is what it is. Balderas says teams will even bid on a guy knowing full well a rival is willing to overpay. That way they make that rival spend more of their budget. Completely correct. Let's see. Miguel Freca says Arcia will be okay as a backup infielder. He doesn't make enough money. Players who have to justify the money are Olsen and Murphy. Well, I think you're right on that. I definitely think that they gotta justify how much money they're making. But keep in mind, Olsen's down year this year would have been a lot of players' dream year. He didn't have a bad one. Look, anytime you hit 54 homers and you follow that up with hitting like 30 homers, everybody's going to be like, oh, okay, he's not Judge. He's not, Babe Ruth. Well, no, he's not. He's Matt Olson. He's going to have down years. He's going to struggle. It's going to be like that. But I wouldn't say he's got to justify how much money he's making. I don't think that's a fair way to look at it. And Murphy got paid however many millions of dollars last year to get hurt. How many of us would like to get paid $10 million to tear our oblique, or whatever he did? Like, it's not an easy job. And justifying money, sure, yes, but it's not like Murphy went up there and watched strike three over and over again. Murphy went up there, didn't have a lot of at-bats this year, period, and he did okay in 23. He didn't do terrible. He didn't do great necessarily, but he didn't do bad. He got hurt this year, and it's not fair to cast stones, in my opinion. Let's see. A lot of folks in here. Let's see. E. Balderas says, I've become a big Realmuto fan, except when he plays against the Braves. Realmuto is a good player. Phillies have a lot of good players. Bryce Harper, if I'm real with you, I know he's very much disliked in Atlanta, but if I'm real with you, Bryce Harper, if I'm watching TV and I'm flipping channels and Bryce Harper comes up and he's at bat, I got to be honest with you, I'm not changing the channel. So it is what it is. We're going to finish with this. The Battery says, I'm really liking your memorabilia display behind you. Well, at some point, we're going to do a video where we show you the entire room. Just so you can kind of picture it. I have shelves over there. I have a bobblehead village. I have a case over here. I have stadium seats. I have you name it. I got it. We're gonna do a video at some point. I got to get a buddy over here to help me shoot it. I say shoot it, I mean film it. That said, when we do, it'll be on the channel. It will be at some point during the off season. I'm going to try to do it over the next couple of weeks, but I want to do it right. And there's some stories to tell for sure about some of these pieces. Some of them are more personal than they are anything, and I'll gladly tell you all those stories. But looking forward to it, and really appreciate all of you guys tuning in tonight. One more time before we go, just got to thank our sponsor, Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC. They have been a great sponsor for the entirety of the 2024 season. They will be joining us throughout the offseason as well, and into next season. They will be with us, hopefully with some others. But Glenn Smith Chevrolet, they have been a great sponsor, and we could not do this show to the level we do it without Glenn Smith Chevrolet. They've been a huge help in getting us equipment, getting us just stuff we need, access, that kind of thing. And look, I mean, gas costs money too, right? Glenn Smith Chevrolet has been a great partner, and all of you out there have been great partners over this past season. This is the first real live stream in the off season, I would consider. The past few live streams, I've been in the process of moving. You've seen me. I mean, it's been makeshift sets and that kind of thing. That has ended. This is the new set as it stands. You may see slight changes over the next few years, but I hope that this is where we will be staying for the foreseeable future anyway. That said, again, look forward to that video. I'm going to do it where we walk you into the studio. We basically walk in a circle all around and show you everything the way I got this laid out. I'm really excited to tell you some stories, and really excited to show you the collection. So if you're into that kind of thing, look forward to that. Look forward to more content, because now that the studio, literally, we finished building this today, by the way. If you're asking why I'm talking about this so much, it literally happened today, so I'm very excited about it. But that said, I can now walk in here and record when something happens. So you will get more up-to-date takes, more up-to-date information. Obviously, this Travis d'Arnaud thing is a day old. That's because the set wasn't built. So now that it is, we will be a little bit more proactive in getting content to you. We have ideas for next season. We have new content ideas. We have content ideas for this off season. We have interviews that we will get, all of that good stuff, and really looking forward to it. So if you like baseball content, if you like Braves content, if you like just pretty much sports, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and of course hit the bell for notifications. That way you know when we go live, when we drop new content, when we pretty much do anything. We can't do it without you, and again, we really do appreciate it. One more time, thank you to our sponsor, Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC, for all they do. That said, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here at On Deck.
Baseball fans, make sure you like and share this video and subscribe to this channel. As always, thank you for your support.